And we're going to get started. So today we're talking about WIN-911 and the voice notifier. My name is Jeremiah. If you don't know me, I'm the WIN-911 Training and Technical Support Manager. I'm guessing I've probably worked with all of you at some point, but if you're new and haven't done any of the webinars or worked with me on a trouble ticket, welcome, and we're happy to have you. So quick agenda. We're going to be talking about the voice notification options available to you, go over some configuration and best practices, I'll give you guys some good troubleshooting steps, a nice demo, and just remind you of the resources available to you and the webinars on deck. All right, so today, right now, with our current version of WIN-911, latest version is 4.20.13. You can still use those old tappy modems. We have our grand stream, and there's always the voice over IP or SIP provider, and we're going to talk about each one of these. So tappy, it's phasing out. It uses an analog phone line, and you can still use it if you have one of those old tappy modems, but Multi-Tech, they don't make them anymore. To my knowledge, they've been end of life and out of stock for quite a while now. Microsoft keeps breaking tappy. There's a workaround in the registry, but it's old technology. It's getting phased out. So, if you have a working tappy modem, great. Keep using it until you get all of its life out of it. Other than that, you're going to want to move up to the grand stream. So this is our tappy replacement. We realized that with Windows 10 build 1903, I think it's when Microsoft released that update that broke the tappy functionality due to some registry changes. And we needed to find a quick solution because hacking the registry for every customer is just not going to be a good solution. So this, you get to keep that analog phone line, which is great. This is a network or IP-based device. You can put it anywhere on your network as long as the WIN-911 machine has access to it. It's another benefit over the tappy modem, which had to be physically plugged in. It's just a USB dongle. And also, if you get it from us, it's configured right here at WIN-911. So we'll get everything configured for you. And the only thing you need to change is the IP address settings for your specific network. And then the VoIP SIP provider, this is your on-site VoIP server, or you can use an online SIP solution. So now we recommend SIP.us just because it's just so easy to use, so easy to set up, and I've never had an issue with it. We do a lot of in-house testing with it, and when it comes to a VoIP solution, I don't even know how many options there are out there, right? They're changing all the time, and you could have a Cisco call manager or any other device out there that the company that you're working with has on the on-site solution, but we can't list out all of those and tell you the exact configuration for all of those. So we recommend SIP.us if you're going to use a SIP provider. All right, so getting into the configuration. I have webinars and documents on all of these, and so this is really going to be a little bit of just the resource page for you. And so if you just go to our knowledge base and you type in tappy, it's going to give you the guide for that. Go to the knowledge base, type in grand stream, and you'll see that we have two articles. We have one that set up if you did purchase it from us, and one if you did not purchase it from us. So we have both of those guides out there for you. And then for SIP.us, you can go to the knowledge base and search that, and we have a guide for that. And if it's not SIP.us, the reality of VoIP is that all of those settings and WIN-911 are going to come from your on-site network or voice admin, whoever maintains that VoIP server. They should know how to set up a user in their own VoIP system and put that information to WIN-911 as a user ID and password and all that. So every single setting in WIN-911 is going to come from whoever maintains that VoIP server. I got a question from Ross. Will this presentation be available for download after the webinar? Yes, absolutely. So we'll have the slides and the video. I'm going to edit it today, and it should be on our website by tomorrow, no later than Friday. And I'm going to show you guys all about that on the webinars page of our website, where you can see all of the previous webinars. And we'll make sure that I attach this PowerPoint presentation for you guys as well. All right, a little bit more about configuration. So I can't stress this point enough. WIN-911 is just a soft phone. That's all we are. We're just a client, just a soft phone requesting to call through your system. Now, this is really geared more towards someone who wants to use their own on-site VoIP provider or VoIP server. We just use the Ozeki soft phone toolkit, right? So that's why I can't tell you how to set up your VoIP server. Whoever's in charge of that should know how to do that. And then in the WIN-911 settings, we're just a soft phone. Go ahead and give us a user or a number or an extension or something that's allowed to call through your system. And we'll get into those settings during the demo as well. All right, so some tips here about best practices and some troubleshooting. One thing is when you're using voice, no matter what the voice option is, TAPI, Grand Stream, VoIP, you always want to configure your tactics with a delay after for each voice connection. Now, this is important because the way that WIN-911 is going to start calling out and notifying people, the other notifier types, SMS or sending emails or the mobile app, those can all be blasted out to everybody at the same time. It might take just a couple seconds, right, depending on your network speed. But calls, they're going to go synchronously and call the first person, wait for that call to finish, wait for the line to be available, and call the next person. So the reason that we want you to put a delay after of at least 30 seconds, maybe a minute, maybe two, whatever works best in your environment, but let's say just a minute, is that when you hang up that phone and let's say that the first person that got the call hangs up the phone and didn't acknowledge the alarm, didn't do anything with it, they just heard the message and hung up, the next call is immediately being queued up to call that second person that's a voice connection. And let's say during that time, someone that got the email or a mobile notification, they acknowledged that alarm. Now, if your stop condition for the call out to stop is to say, hey, when this alarm is acknowledged, stop, and that call is already queued, it's going to call the person, and they're going to get the message. And when they get that call and they try to acknowledge, again, it's going to say, sorry, unable to deliver the acknowledgement request at this time. And that's because somebody else acknowledged it, right? So it's not a big deal. The alarm is taken care of, and everyone's going to get re-notified, but it's going to cause some confusion to operators, and you just don't want to have them acknowledge it and have them get that error message and think something's broken. So that's why the delay after is pretty important for the voice connections. All right, next up, double check the KB in each setting in the voice gateway. Analog phone lines get old. That's just the reality of it. Some of these are really old copper lines out there. Get the quality checked from your provider. Before doing anything, I would recommend that. There have been hundreds and hundreds of tickets that we've worked where phone line is sending WIN-911 the wrong DTMF tone. And the DTMF tone, if you're not familiar, that's when WIN-911 calls you and says, please enter your authorization ID followed by the pound sign, right? Those are those DTMF tones. When you hit the number 2, or any of the numbers, right? The phone line, if it's got bad quality or some crosstalk or attenuation, or it's strung over some things that are giving it bad signal, you hit 2 and it hears 5, and it just sends that back. And all WIN-911 is doing is listening to what the phone line hears. So you can have some issues with acknowledgments, some bad phone quality. You can not be able to ACK and have some failed calls. So always get the quality of the phone line checked for those analog phone lines. Also, just know your phone line, right? Does this phone line have long distance? Are you even able to call somebody outside of the area code? Is that the problem? Is there a prefix required? Talk to the provider and get all the information. Make sure that you're putting this information into WIN-911. Dial that 9 before the 1 and the number if there's a prefix or whatever it is. And again, triple check the KB and each setting in the voice gateway. So I bring this up just because you wouldn't believe how many times we have an issue, and we'll try to send a document or something quick while we're on a call with somebody else. And Kent asked, what's the KB? So KB is a knowledge base article. It's just an article for how to set something up, right? We have a ton of KBs for all kinds of things. And I'm going to show you guys this on our website and how to get to the knowledge base, but that's what the KB is. We'll try to send a guide and get someone on the right track while we're on a different call or whatever the case may be, and they're like, oh, we checked that, it's not working. And we go on and remote in, and the setting that's in the KB, just hasn't been changed. And I'm not trying to, call anybody out or say that reading the KB is too much work. Hey, that's what we're here for. We'll help you, absolutely. But for those people that want to be, self-starters and just get the KB and try to work things out, I'll remote onto the system, change the setting, and like, oh, well, the KB never said that, and then, open the KB up and highlight the setting exactly where it is in the KB. I'm like, oh, I just missed it. So just double check, triple check, make sure you go through everything in the KB article and in the voice gateway settings. It's just going to save you as an SI or an end user a lot of time. And again, we're always here to help, but save some frustration on your own end and double, triple check those. And debug, debug, debug. This is your best friend, the greatest source of all of my troubleshooting knowledge. It writes everything to the event viewer logs. If you don't know how to put something in debug mode, I'm going to show you right now in the demo. But again, go to our website, WIN-911.com, support tab, knowledge base, and you can type in debug. There's an article that shows you everything that you have to do to open up the config file and put something in debug mode. All right, let's go ahead and jump on the demo. Pull up my VM. Okay, so I'm going to open up your WIN-911 workspace. Okay, and under Contact, Gateways, Voice, so you hit the Edit button, and you have TAPI. Pretty straightforward. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on TAPI. You plug in the modem, and it'll drop in here. If it's not in here, reboot the machine. Make sure it's in Device Manager. Plenty of guides on the knowledge base about TAPI. We're not really going to focus too much on it here today. So the SIP/VoIP, that's what you're going to be using for Grandstream, VoIP, SIP provider, anything like that. So the first one I'm going to show you is using SIP.us. Like I said, it's a fantastic solution. It's been bulletproof in all of our testing, and it's super easy to set up. So the first thing you want to do is go to SIP.us and click on there, Getting Started, fill out some information, and get a SIP.us account. Pretty simple. Once you get that activated and you have a SIP.us account, you can get your logon created, and you'll get to a login page for your personal control panel, just like this. And on the left side, you see SIP trunking, and then SIP trunks. This is really the only section of everything that they offer that you need. This is it. You just need a SIP trunk. You can see here, we got a couple that we can use to test with, but right at the top of their website, they have the information that you need for your WIN-911 settings. If you just expand this trunk registration information. So trunk username, this is the trunk number field. So your trunk number field, right here and right here, that's your number. That's your number you're going to put in for your user ID. Okay, and then it tells you for your password, this is your alphanumeric string when you click show password. So when you click show password, you can set this up to whatever you want it to be when you register your account. I just have mine as testing 1 2 3, and you put that into the password field. Let me back up. Make sure you're obviously using the registration required here. So that just goes away if you don't check it, and you need to have the registration turned on. Maybe you have a VoIP solution on site that doesn't require registration. I'd be shocked, but typically you're always going to want to have this on. So the user ID is the same thing as the registration ID, and you throw in your password. All right, you can leave the bidirectional channel as 1, leave that default. And then you come down here to the server address, and again, right in their own instructions, the server IP is gw1.sip.us. So you throw in gw1.sip.us, And that's actually all you need to make it work. You can just throw in that server and call. Now, one thing I am going to recommend you always do, you don't have to, but you might get an issue with voice calls where you get the call to your phone, but you don't get audio. So interesting thing about VoIP, SIP, SIP protocol itself, and RTP, which is real-time protocol. That's the voice itself, right? So when you're hearing DTMF tones or you're hearing a voice speak, that's real-time protocol. That's different. And you can see if you scroll down, there's a SIP port of 5060 and there's RTP port range. So SIP is the connection, session initiation protocol. This will connect, but then the voice goes over UDP and it's a range. And that can be lost in translation when you're going from inside your network out through a firewall, out to the internet, and using SIP.us. Typical NAT, network address translation. It'll lose that traffic. So you just set up a stun server, which is already built in to your SIP.us account. Moving down from their server address, the NAT type, you just want to click the drop down, make sure it's stun, and their stun server is stun.sip.us. All right. You don't need to put the username and password again. It keeps that information from the registration up here. The rest of this can all stay default. You never have to touch this information unless you're using your own on-premise VoIP server. Again, forget all of this because this is just SIP.us, and every single setting in here is going to come from whoever manages that VoIP server. They're going to give you an ID or an extension or a number or something. They're going to give you a password. They're going to have an IP address of their VoIP server, and they're going to have their own port ranges or just the soft phone. So it's up to them to set that up, right? But for SIP.us, that's it. The username, the ID right there, the password, the gw1.sip.us, stun, and the stun server. One thing to note is if you have more than one IP address. So you open up command prompt, ipconfig. I've got a couple IP addresses, right? If you have more than one, this setting is by default for the binding address, use all. If you have more than one, don't do that. Just do specify, find the one that has access to the internet, right? So you can have 5 NICs on your machine, 5 network interface cards. The one that actually goes out to the internet, that has access out, you're going to specify that IP address right here. Go ahead and save the settings. Right when you click save, it's going to start doing some registration in the background. And then you can click on the test SIP settings button. And it'll see if it can register. I'll give it a minute here. It's communicating out with SIP.us. It's trying to register and authenticate with that username and password and get the okay that this soft phone is allowed to make a call through it. And you can see actually over on the SIP side that for each trunk that you have, you'll see if something is registered or not registered, which is kind of nice. It lets you know that maybe your firewall might be blocking the traffic and you're not getting registered at all. There you go. So it's just saying that when a line is available, it's going to make the call. So now in the background, it's going to be sending that call out to SIP.us. SIP.us is going to be calling the phone. And if you give it a minute or two, my cell phone should start ringing unless something went wrong. But that registered is really nice to see. Just because you could have everything set up perfectly, but your firewall is blocking SIP traffic or something. There you go, getting the phone call.
Hello, this is the WIN-911 system. If you are hearing this message, your gateway settings are correct.
There you go. As you can see, relatively painless, super easy, nice to set up. All their information is always up here on your SIP account if you forget. So that's SIP.us, and hopefully you can see why we recommend it. It's extremely easy. So now I'm going to show you guys the knowledge base and where you can find all that information. Go to our website, win911.com, and you can hover your mouse on the support tab, go down to knowledge base, and type in sip.us. There you go. How to configure WIN-911 voice with SIP US. Go create an account. Go to the SIP trunks. All the information highlighted. Use the username, password, server field. Voice gateway settings. Check the registration required box. Enter the trunk number as the user ID and the registration ID. Enter the password. Quick note here that you can change your password on the sip.us account. Enter the gw1.sip.us, screenshot of the settings. And this is a note about the stun server. In case you're curious, you can kind of nerd out on the protocol, the RCF for that. And there's the stun server information. Here's your note that is nice and bold and big. If you have more than one IP address, change the binding setting to specify, put in the IP that's on the right network to talk to the internet. And we just did it, and you can reference this anytime you need. So now we're going to go on to Grandstream because we're selling a bunch of those and people are using them and liking them. Now, unfortunately, I don't have a Grandstream device that I can show you, remoting on and the GUI and whatnot, but it has all the screenshots you need in the KB article. So again, you're at our solutions page. You just type in Grandstream, and you have the two guides right there. So device not purchased from us or purchased from us. I'm going to go ahead and go over the one purchased from us because there's a few less steps. We got a nice introduction. How does it work? All that good stuff, the ports and where you want to plug things in. FXO ports is what we're using always on the Grandstream for those analog phone lines. Do not use the FXS ports. Shows you how to access the web GUI for the IP address of the Grandstream device when you plug it in. You can log into the GUI. Username is admin. Password is on the bottom of the device, just like pretty much any router or a network device that you purchase. So you'll log in with it. And we tell you how to change your Grandstream configuration settings step by step to change the network settings on it. So you want to make sure that you go through all of this and change the network settings method from route to switch. You can see a screenshot here. The method needs to be switch. And you're going to want to get with your IT team if you don't know how to do the basic networking of setting an IP address and whatnot, or in a network environment, they need to reserve a static IP address for you to use for the Grandstream because it does, you don't want that to change. You don't want it to be a DHCP where it's automatically assigned and then that lease expires and then your settings in WIN-911 are trying to talk to an IP that doesn't exist anymore. So always get a static IP address, get with the IT department if you need to, and fill out that IP subnet mask, the gateway, and a DNS server. You can see a screenshot of all that. And then you're going to want to go and set the date time. Screenshot of where to go for that. Set the date and time, save and apply. And it'll bring you right back to the logon screen. And that's pretty much it when you get it from us. Make sure the networking is set up right and we can talk to it. The rest is ready to go. For the WIN-911 configuration, it gives you every single setting in there exactly the same as these here: user ID, registration, password, user ID, registration required, registration ID, password. And really the only difference is that you're putting in the server IP address of the Grandstream device instead of sip.us, this GW1. That's what you're talking to. And again, this warning, if you have more than one IP address assigned, change the binding. Make sure you put in the right IP that's on the same network as the Grandstream. This goes into the audio settings tab, which is over here when you're in edit mode. Actually, I don't even think you have to be edit mode. You just click on audio. This stuff you don't ever have to change. You just have to be on this page one time for the very initial setup. If you just installed WIN-911 and you've never set it up, you just need to select a voice in here. So this is just a built-in, Microsoft voice. You can type your own greeting in there if you'd like. Codec should always be auto select always, even if you have your own on-premise VoIP solution and it prefers one, we have a list of all of the available ones, and it should auto-negotiate that. I've still never seen a case where we had to specify a codec in this list, because we just do auto-negotiate. VoIP server says that it wants to use one, we say okay. So that's just a note about the audio tab. Gives you some notes about selecting the voice, the speech offset rate, which is just how fast it talks, the volume, things like that. And once you set that up, you're good to go to test SIP settings again. Put in your phone number. You get that call. Now this one specific thing about the grand stream we put in here, as you can see, it's a little important. There is a config file change that you want to make. All it does is add 10-second delay between calls, but what happens typically with the grand stream is that you have the digital SIP connection from WIN-911 talking to the grand stream. That's SIP. Obviously here in the SIP protocol, RTP port range, and all this is happening through networking, but then the grand stream has to take that and then trunk it over to the analog phone line. So we're using two different technologies here. And sometimes if you're blasting out a bunch of calls, the line can be disposed and it can be used, and it doesn't have that analog line being ready yet. So we just want to add a 10-second delay just to make sure that the line is available, you don't get a busy signal or something weird. And this config file change is listed out here for you. It tells you exactly where to go. See program files, WIN-911, go to the voice, open up the voice config file, and then you're just going to add this line to the bottom. Okay, here's the guide for grand stream. Went through SIP. Now I'm going to show you how to turn on debug mode, which is just a life-saving tool for all things troubleshooting. Back to the knowledge base, type in debug, how to turn on debug login. All right, so it's a little word heavy. I'd like to redo this article, but really all you need to know is you go to the config file for whatever module that you're trying to troubleshoot. So in this case, voice. In the example in the screenshots, it's using email. You had to pick something. But you go drill down into the WIN-911 directory where it's installed. You're going to open up whichever module, email for this example, but for our webinar today, we're talking voice. And you're going to open up that voice runtime exe config file, open that with a notepad. In the notepad, you'll see logging flags value equals default. I'll change that to debug, and Control S to save the file, or file save, however you want to do it, and go restart that service in the Windows Services applet. And that's it, you're in debug mode. So when you restart the service, it's going to start writing to the event viewer in debug mode. So I'll show you what that looks like, because I know it's, a wall of words. Sometimes you don't want to read through it. So I'll show you how easy it is. So open up your file explorer on the WIN-911 machine. See program files x86, WIN-911 software, WIN-911 enterprise. We're troubleshooting voice, so we open the voice folder, and here's that voice runtime.exe.config. Now, I'm pretty sure mostly everybody does not do what I do. They have the file extensions hidden, so it looks like this is just an exe, when really this is the exe, and you can see that's application type, and this is config. I always recommend going to view and show the file extensions just so you can make sure you edit the right one. So this is the config file. You can right click and edit that with a notepad. Here's your add key, logging flags value equals default. Just delete default, type bug, Control S to save it. Down there, open up Windows Services, go down to the W's. Here's our WIN-911 services, and here's voice. Right click and restart. And while that's restarting, I'm going to show you, this is really cool because it tells you everything that's going on. So even if you're using your internal VoIP server, the company or the IT department or the network guy is saying, you should be good to go. It's set up. I don't know what your problem is. Talk to WIN-911. We'll help you out. We'll throw it in debug mode, and we'll prove to them that, hey, look, we're using your information. We're trying to register, but the response from your VoIP server is, unauthorized or forbidden or something like that. So I'll show you every event that comes through here in debug mode because it's super helpful. So in the debug logs here, in case you missed it, you got to just open Event Viewer, expand this Application and Services logs, and go down to WIN-911. This is always going to be here. That's what we write to. And here's the voice notifier runtime debug logs, right? So we're going to go back to just a few seconds ago and see when this started. We got voice starting up, getting its license. Keep going up. Hardware info, it's pulling its configuration. And there you can see Ozeki soft phone is going to be at the beginning of all of these voice registration commands here because we're just using that Ozeki soft phone toolkit. And all right, you can see here SIP line created. NAT is stun, everything we just set up. Registering phone line. Registration state change to registration request, creating new, and connected to remote host, address gw1.sip.us. All right, so you can follow this step by step, and it's super helpful because if you get to this point, connecting to host, and then you get an error, well, chances are you can't connect to that host. Talk to the firewall guys, open the Windows firewall, see what's going on, right? And let's go back. I had to refresh here. Here we go. This is the good stuff you want to see. So, sending SIP message to gw1.sip.us. Register. Next message up. SIP message received from. So this already tells you a ton of information, right? It means you can talk out to that server successfully, and you're sending the register command. And it means you can get return traffic from that VoIP solution, whether it be the Grand Stream, your own internal VoIP server, or an internet-based one. We got a message back, and it says 401 unauthorized. Okay. We send another one, register again, and there's some more info in here, and this is probably adding in that ID and the password to the registration. Go back up again, SIP message received from 200, okay. You're registered, good to go. Re-registration timer, succeeded, your SIP line is now active. So if anything fails in that step, you get unauthorized over and over and over. Well, that VoIP server is saying no, right? Go back and double check your password. Type it again. Go back and double check your trunk ID. Talk to the VoIP guys and be like, hey, we're getting unauthorized. What's our extension supposed to be? This is what we're getting. This is all the ammunition you need. It's fantastic levels of information. Say that your VoIP server came back and said no. So now we send another SIP message to sip.us, subscribe. Modem is initialized. And this is just going to sit here and give you every single thing. See, here's a forbidden right there. So this probably has something to do with the stun server, and we should see that clear up. And by the way, you can see all this is debug level. If there was an actual hard failure, it would go back to an error or a warning state. But we got a forbidden back from sip.us, so let's keep going up and see what happens. There we go, packet received from stun server. Keep alive response. And it looks like that packet was all we needed because now we're set up with voice module is the lead. This means you're ready to go. When you see this, that means all registration steps are done. We authenticated, we're happy. The VoIP server or SIP server is happy. We're ready to call. So that's debug mode, and it shows you everything. It's great. And let's go back to, so resources again, go to our website, resources tab, documentation, resources tab, webinars, how-to videos, support tab, knowledge base, support tab, start a support case. So I'm gonna go over this one more time with you guys on our website. But one last thing I wanted to mention before we open it up to questions and whatnot is on our webinars page. I'll show you this on the website, but here's a quick view. We always have our webinars on deck and our new user training. So if you've been around and used WIN-911 for a while, you know this is relatively new. It's a program I started a few months ago. Chris Cave is my training lead. He does a fantastic job. He loves to do it. He's passionate about it. Everyone that's gone through it has had nothing but great things to say. I've sat in on it. It's good stuff. If you want new user training, if you are new to WIN-911, or even if you're experienced, it is just really good information. You can see the dates that you can register there. So we had one last week, and we have one coming up next week. We do these twice a month right now. So I'm going to go show you that real quick, and then we're going to answer some questions. So back on our website, under resources, we have webinars. Here's our webinars on deck. So next month we are doing a big one. This is going to be a big one. A lot of people are starting to realize that there's some security stuff going on out there. There's a lot of news and information about breaches and things like that. So we're going to have a nice live Q&A. I believe our product manager, Stephen Rivas, should be on that with me, so we can have a nice Q&A session and go over all the security and best practices for that. That's coming up on March 10th, so get registered for that. And then our new user training. So the next one is February 23rd. Again, we do these twice a month. Join them every time. Keep going. We're going to show different SCADAs from time to time and different information, so use that to your advantage. And then if you scroll down, I'll give you guys a bigger window here. Missed a webinar, see our past webinars here. We have a ton that we've done. General, whole list of them, install tips and tricks, configuration tips and tricks, hot backup. We got SCADA source right here, right? Whether using InTouch, OPC best practices, Wonderware, InTouch, Edge, System Platform, iFix, Simplicity, Voice Notifier. You can see all the times that I've done this. We got new Voice Notifier for GrandStream. We got the VoIP configuration process. We got voice notification, GrandStream, IPVX. And then we're gonna have this one added. So lots of good info here on our webinars page. Also under resources is the how-to videos, general documentation. And again, under the support tab is our knowledge base and start a support case here. All right, so I'm going to pop out the question section here, and we're going to go through some of these. Thank you guys for sticking around. I hope it was helpful. I hope you learned something. If you want to take off, by all means, go for it. I'm going to answer questions, and you guys can also unmute yourselves and ask away. Presentation available for download. Yep, answered that. Answered the knowledge base. Why we need SIP account, please explain. Well, if you use the GrandStream, you don't need a SIP account. This is just if you want to use a SIP provider out there on the internet, right? So you can use GrandStream, buy that from us. You don't need a SIP account. You can use your own internal VoIP server, and someone else that manages that can set it up. If you want to use an internet-based SIP provider, SIP.us is just easy. That gives you voice calls, right? You don't want to buy a GrandStream when you don't have an internal VoIP server. Use SIP.us, and you can make voice calls. So that's why you would use that SIP account. Naeem says, we go pre-configured from WIN-911. Do we need to do this setup during upgrade from TAPI? Okay, I think you kind of clarified in this next one. We got it pre-configured from WIN-911. Do we need to do this GrandStream setup during the upgrade from TAPI? Yeah, so if you're upgrading from TAPI, TAPI's going away and you got a GrandStream, you'll need to do that exact same KB article I just pulled up. Just type in GrandStream, click the one that's purchased from us, WIN-911, and go through those settings to just change the IP address on your GrandStream to whatever matches your network environment. Right. It's impossible to load up what your network is going to be for every customer. We can't load that into a pre-configured file because everyone has their own network. Everyone has different IP addresses. Everyone has different subnet masks and IP ranges. So you got to set it up for your network, and then you're done. We are in Canada. Do we need to use sip.us? Again, sip.us is just an online SIP provider. If you want to use it, it's available for voice calls. If you don't want to use it, you don't have to. Just get a grand stream with an analog phone line. Which ports we need to open for SIP communication. So the default SIP port is 5060, and you can see that back in the WIN-911 settings over here. SIP port 5060. Now that's the default. You can change that if you want, but that's the default SIP port that everything's going to use out there. Do you know if there is a free version of sip.us for testing? Yeah, absolutely. So I have a trial version right now. You put in your information, you put in your company name, and I think the only restriction is they don't want you to sign up with like a Gmail account. It has to be a company account. I'm sure it's for tracking purposes for sales. But then you get a demo, and I think it lasts for like 2 weeks, and it's pretty cool. You can make calls and do whatever you need. I think the only limitation other than the 2 weeks is that you will have an issue with the inbound calls, right? So calling back into WIN-911, I think you have to click a button that gives you a test inbound number, and it only lasts for like 4 hours. But regardless, it's cool. And even when you just want to do the monthly subscription thing, I think it's like $20 a month, something like that. And you get voice for super cheap, and it's all housed, in the cloud and managed by them. So it's a pretty cool option. Very helpful. Thanks, Mark. Where do I start looking for the reason why my voice notification still calls even when I acknowledge the alarm on the mobile app? Ken, so that is due to your strategy settings. So I'll show you that right now, Kent, if you're still around. He says, where do I start looking for the reason why my voice notification still calls out even when I acknowledge the alarm on the mobile app? So in the workspace, go to notification, strategies, click on your strategy, or all of them if you've created more than one. And you see in here, there's the stop condition. Click on edit, stop condition. The stop condition is what makes the call out stop. I'm guessing you probably still have this set to alarm becomes terminal. You want this to be when alarm becomes acknowledged. That will stop the call outs. Terminal, for those of you who don't know, this is terminal equals acknowledged and back to inactive. So the alarm has to go back to an inactive or not in alarm state on the SCADA for it to match terminal. Alarm becomes acknowledged, that'll stop your callouts. No more emails, no more voice calls, no more anything, but you have to set your strategy this way. Mark, how much does sip.us cost monthly? I'm pretty sure it's like $24 for the inbound voice number, so you can call inbound is like the main cost, and then it's like per call is like 0.0001 cents or something ridiculously cheap. I think I tested for a couple of months with it and paid less than $1. It's stupid cheap. Is there a previous webinar explaining how schedules work? Yeah, I believe we do have a webinar about schedules. Let me just double check before I promise that. And if not in webinars, then we will be doing that in the how-to videos. All right, so there's the advanced tactics and strategies. Let me check under how-to videos. There we go, roles, labels, and schedules, right here on how-to videos under dispatcher. There you go. Corey asked, any plan to use SIP on remote computers similar to mobile hub? Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, so computer with internet access in the DMZ and no internet on the WIN-911 machine. That's a good question. So what you could do there is use our distributed install and just install the voice module itself out there on that DMZ machine. And as long as you have your networking set up right and your routing set up right to where the WIN-911 machine can talk to that DMZ machine with voice, you can absolutely set up the voice to call out from that DMZ machine, yeah. And if you want more information on the distributed install, You guessed it, I've done a webinar on it. So under here on the left, under General, Distributed Installs, when to utilize, talk about how to set that up and everything else you need. Is the GrandStream just your preferred PBX? Is there another? Yeah, so Mike, we need to, I guess the word would be like specialize in one thing, right? We need to not sell 20 different products. We need to just have our one thing that we configure. We load the config file. It's the same every time because we have hundreds of people that have bought that GrandStream PBX. And so for us, that's what we want people to use because we know how to troubleshoot it. We know how to set up. It's supported from us. And the other side of that is I don't know if we could make this other PBX model work. I'm sure we can, but it's not going to be supported. It's not going to be something that we've tested and it's tried and true and we sell. So it is our preferred, and it's really the only analog phone line solution that's going to be coming from WIN-911. Excellent info. Thanks for the demo. Yep, thank you, Trevor. Thanks, Kent. Next question from Courtney. Where do we input the alarm delay you mentioned? Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I probably should have added that. Thank you, Courtney. You got me on something good here. So the delay after in your tactic. So go to your tactic. So this is under notification, tactics basic. And you can see here there's the delay after field. So when you click edit, you're going to go in and after each voice connection, right, you can see the icon for phone. Do a delay after of a minute. Save that setting. So there's your delay after. Sorry, I missed that. Mark, thank you, and you're welcome for that info. Ross says, should I upgrade from Win-911 V7? I would definitely recommend it. I would just kind of do your homework first, go through some more of the webinars I've done, go through some new user training, see how it works. There is a learning curve if you've only used the old legacy V7. But I would absolutely recommend upgrading because you can't do any of this in V7. It is just a TAPI modem, which you can't find anymore, or a Dialogic card, which are super expensive, and I don't know if you can find those anymore either. Price point of GrandStream, I believe we sell them for just $500. Configured from us, shipped to you. You're welcome, Adam. You're welcome, Naeem, John, Ross. Thank you guys for the positive feedback. More than happy to do these as often as needed. Corey, upgrading to the new release, simple install, anything to worry about? I mean, the biggest change is that we use a SQL database and we install IIS. So I won't call it the most simple install because, there's extenuating circumstances. It's the customer environment that's different every time. If you have a domain environment with huge lockdowns, then yeah, you might have some issues installing SQL, or you might have some issues installing the IIS part of the install. But for your plain vanilla system, install is absolutely seamless. Takes maybe 15 minutes to get it installed. And we have a lot of information out there to help you, and you can always open a ticket as well. Michael Chase, do you have past webinar more focused on the alarm or scheduling setup? Absolutely. I mean, go through the list. We have a ton on the alarming, both basic and advanced. Those are in the how-to videos and previous webinars. The scheduling is in that video I just pulled up earlier under how-to videos. Roy, thank you. You're welcome. Courtney, absolutely, you're very welcome. Thank you guys for the feedback. Thank you guys for voting. We're going to go ahead and close it out. And appreciate all of you guys being here. I'm going to keep bringing you guys more helpful information. So have a wonderful rest of your day and a good rest of your week. Stay safe and take care, everybody.